It feels like the 49ers haven't played a football game in about 3 months, but I promise it's only been about 10 days. Niners play on Sunday. New Sprint Right Option podcast starts now.
Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners. Sprint Right Option podcast. Oh my goodness. It is another new episode of the Sprint Right Option podcast. We've been gone for a minute. That's what happens when the NFL throws Thursday night games at the 49ers. It makes that Friday schedule a little tougher for us, but have no fear. Your favorite 49ers podcasting duo is back. I like to call us the world's cutest tag team. Jason Aponte, how you doing on this lovely Friday in Jersey?
Doing great. I mean, aside from the fact that half of my town is underwater and we're having to swim. Good thing for me, I am one of the few people who can actually swim, so I'm fine. Like I have no issues with that or anything like that. But kind of funny that I did Sacramento radio today as well too. Sacktown Sports. Shout out to them.
Shout out.
They're always shout out to Kyle Ledbetter and those guys. They always show some love. So it's always good to do radio in your part of town because I feel like Andrew Pasquini is proud of me.
Love 1140. Love Jason Aponte. Jay, I think you and I were both in the same thing. Like, we don't necessarily know how to swim. We're just tall enough to keep our head above water.
No, I can
think
swim.
That's our. Oh, okay, I barely.
No. I can legit swim. Like,
okay,
good.
Good.
I can legit swim. Like in the ocean, in a river. Yeah, no, I can swim.
I don't mess with water. Period. Like the most I'll do is a bath. Like I'll run a nice warm bath after a long day.
The extent of my swimming is literally doing the frog thing and just going like this and kicking my legs and just going underwater.
I'm a doggy
paddle doesn't work.
I'm big doggy paddle guy.
At 6'5", you can go like this and move your arms and kick your legs, and all of a sudden you're just like, oh wow, I'm moving, and now you can swim. Like that's the extent of my swimming. That's your film breakdown of Jason Aponte swimming.
I swim like Randy Moss celebrates his touchdowns.
Oh, like this?
Yeah. So you were doing this, and that's all I thought of. Did anybody think we were going to talk swimming dope in the podcast? Didn't think so. That's why people love us so much, Jason. We talk about the things that people don't expect us to talk about. Probably expecting me to talk Gabe Kapler. You sickos, you're not going to get any of that. I don't have opinions on that. It's football seasons.
I don't even know who that is.
Who's Gabe Kapler? I don't know who he is. Jason, it's been so long since we've talked to each other. We haven't even talked about technically the biggest news of the quote unquote week.
I swear to God, if you even bring up their names, I will absolutely lose it. I'm going to go on an all-time rant.
I'm curious, what names do you think I'm going to say?
The ones that have been floated around on network news.
That one. Oh yeah, no. I was. It's been so long since we've last talked that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch got an extension. Okay. You thought I was going to talk about Taylor Swift?
Shut up.
I have opinions on that. Well, you know what, Jason? We'll save that for the end of the show. Thank you for mentioning. I forgot about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. No, I'm joking, Jay. We won't talk about it. I'll save you that. No,
I'll just end the show.
We haven't talked about it, that Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch both got extensions. You've talked about it. I have not. So for those people who have been begging for Andrew Pasquini's opinion on Shanahan and Lynch's extension, I like it. There's my thoughts.
A lot of organizations wish that they could have the stability with a general manager and have the roster that they have with a head coach like that. I 100% think this was warranted. If you are talking about, well, why are you granting this extension without a Super Bowl? It's like, hey man, Super Bowls don't grow on trees. Your team is right now at the top of like the list of everybody's list. And I wanted to get to this, Alberto, I am going to, after with the last like 5 minutes before Andrew gets rid of this, I've got it ready to go. I will go through the underdog picks with you guys. We're going to add that to the show. I don't know why I haven't been doing it myself. It doesn't make any sense, but we will make it happen, especially since underdog is available to you guys in the West Coast and it's not available to anybody in New Jersey.
New Jersey. Yeah, we've been teasing about those underdog picks for a couple of weeks now. Maybe we should follow through and mention it. So Jason, shout out. So yeah, I wanted to get the kind of the quote unquote big news that happened last week. I haven't had a chance to talk about it. I wanted to get my thoughts out. So let's move on, Jason. The 49ers, they played the Arizona Cardinals on Sunday at Levi's Stadium. Niners 3-0, Arizona 1-2. I'll get
Hell yeah.
shout out Maximilian. Maximilian, first of all, great name. Hey guys, greets from Austria. It's 2:20 a.m. over here. We appreciate that. Thank you very much. Jason Aponte, Mr. Worldwide. That's what I like to call him. I guess
it's us
in this sense. But 49ers play. We shout out Maximilian, by the way. I want to make. I cannot stress it enough. Shout out Maximilian watching us in Austria. We appreciate it. But speaking of Underdog, thanks for passing me in best ball, Aponte. Oops.
Shout out to Devin A. Chain and Keenan Allen, who were both in my best ball lineups. Devin A. Chain, Keenan Allen, my best buddies.
Love it. No, so Niners play the Cardinals. And Jason, I'm gonna start with this and to what Leicester. I'm not going to call them the Cowgirls. I know that's a thing that fans like to do. I'm going to call them the Cowboys. If the Cowboys lose or the Cardinals win it, and that's kind of a basis of my first question, Jason Aponte.
Right.
Are we a little nervous about the Arizona? Because remember a week ago we were like, hey, we don't need to talk about those Cardinals. The Cowboys are coming up in 2 weeks, and then the Cowboys went on to lose to the Cardinals. So are you a little nervous?
No, nervous? I'm not. Okay. But also, we've debunked the theory that the Arizona Cardinals are tanking.
Yes,
there's no tanking going on. They've been involved in leading in every single game. And if not for a historic collapse in the second game, they would at least be 2-1. And if not for Sam Howell and the Washington Commanders, they'd be 3-0. And Kyle Shanahan expressed those same sentiments.
I think there's a legit argument that if they acquired Josh Dobbs a week before the season, they could be 3-0 right now.
And that's the thing. It's like you look at the schedule when we open it, and we're like, listen, hey, what are wins? And Arizona's a win. But
yes,
when Kyle Shanahan looks at it and he says it's 3-0 that they could be, I thought the same thing. I watched that Arizona-Dallas game twice. Arizona took it to Dallas. I think that's it's more of an indictment, not on the Arizona Cardinals, because when you're a guy who's taking over, and regardless if you are taking over the worst roster, you are taking over a team that you're trying to install a culture on. You're trying to put a whole new culture on. And for someone to go in there, if it feels like the Arizona Cardinals might be 2017 Niners-ish. Like, they're not going to win many games, but they're involved in every game, and they lose by one score, and they're there, and you're close. You're on the cusp, right? And it gets to the point where it's like, you as a coach, you walk in, Jonathan Gannon, which I got some thoughts, and I know why Kyle Shanahan is not overlooking this game, by the way.
Yeah.
You have to make sure that you are instilling a culture and showing that you can lead men regardless of who's in that room. Buda Baker's not playing. You guys are still playing as hard as you can and involved in every game. And the Giants were a playoff team. The Cowboys were supposed to be one of the top 3 teams in the NFC. Washington is whatever. But when you look at it, the Cardinals are now putting into your mind that we're not tanking. We're here to instill a culture. And if you want to be here, you can be here. And that's the thing. Is like, this has been backing up my entire argument about the idea of tanking. Nobody tanks. If you purposely tank, you will be fired and never get a job ever again. And guess what? The organization gets to take the first overall pick and give it to someone else who didn't even earn it by tanking. Yeah. There is no way that you can put on film that you're tanking. And the Arizona Cardinals are showing you right now that they're not. So to this question, did the Cowgirls lose or did the Cardinals win it? The Cardinals beat the shit out of Dallas. When I watch it over and over. They beat the hell out of them. And for Trevon Diggs to not be there and Joshua Dobbs to not throw the football around and for them to be able to run the football that way, that lets me know same old Dallas Cowboys. Y'all are soft. Y'all can be run on. Your offensive line, and without 2 people, I get that. Your defensive line can be beat. And Dak's still going to throw those mind-numbing interceptions. I don't know. Is Dak Prescott just better looking? No, not better looking. More wins, Jimmy Garoppolo?
Is he a worse looking Jimmy Garoppolo? A less attractive Jimmy Garoppolo.
But
there we go.
Does he have more wins, Jimmy Garoppolo?
Does like career wise or since? Let's. I'm gonna Google this now.
No,
he has ready.
He has more. He has more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me look. I'll get you exact numbers real quick, Jason.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Look, all of those things came to fruition in that game. And if you expect if you expect me to believe that because the Dallas Cowboys were missing 2 linemen and Trevon Diggs, who they're going to be missing for the rest of the year, have an excuse for the reason that these guys ran all over them. I mean, yeah. Rondale Moore ran a touchdown out of the backfield. I feel like they found something a little bit there in Arizona because they're just like, hey, man, he might not be a wide receiver. Let's put him in the backfield. But if you expect me to believe that because all of those people that were lost in the Dallas game were the reason that Arizona beat Dallas, come on, man. You're not that team then. You're not that team that everybody thinks. And I know the NFL, the 49ers are going to have a game like this too. And I wrote about this on Niners Nation. They're going to have a game like this too, where we're just like, you lost to whoever? How?
Maybe Arizona on Sunday.
Maybe. I doubt it. Spoiler alert, I'm picking the Niners. Yeah. But the NFL is like that. But at the same time, it's like, man, you can't go in there as 17-point favorites.
Yes.
And then throw up that. That's the part that scares me more about the Cowboys. Well, not scares me. I just laugh at them. But I'm just saying.
Yeah, and to make it about the Cowboys too, yes, they could be a 17-point favorite and they win by 3. It's not as you expected, but they still did their job and won the game. They got beat pretty bad by Arizona. I watched that game as well, and Arizona they didn't seem to have really any issues with anything. They did intercept Dak Prescott for the first time this season, which took until week 3 for him to have that. So that's pretty.
Well, also cool. Context-wise, first week he didn't throw the football at all. Basically,
that's true.
So he probably could have thrown more interceptions. Keep going though.
But yeah, no, and that's the thing that I think the Arizona Dallas game is any given Sunday type thing where it's any team can beat any team. The thing that has concerned me about Arizona in terms of going into this Niner game is I'm not going to use the word tank because, Jason, you're absolutely right. Tanking is not the right word. But if you had to lump together 3 teams at the start of the season saying, hey, these are going to be the 3 worst teams, it would be the Cardinals, the Bears, depending on how high you were on them. And then, I don't know, I'm just going to say the Jets because the Jets going into the year, yes, had Aaron Rodgers, but at this point, a bottom 3 team.
You can't even put the Giants in there because looking at their first 3 games, 1 and 2 was a very likely outcome.
Yeah. So but the thing is about the Cardinals, especially compared to the Bears, who are a bad team right now, the Cardinals have been feisty. The Cardinals have been a little bit of a spicy team, dare I say. I know we like that word on this podcast.
And their linebacker that intercepted Dak was talking that mess. That's what you want to see. Again, the culture change.
Kaiser White. Yeah, Kaiser White. Yeah. But that's my thing is they're spicy. They've led every game going into the fourth quarter this season, right? And obviously a very dramatic collapse is what cost them one of the games against the Giants. But if you take away, and I wrote this in my article, Jason, about their defense, about how if you take away the 31 points they allowed in the second half, and that's a very big number to take, just making 31 points go poof, that's a big number to ask, right? But if you take that away, you look at their other games, 20 points to Washington, 16 to the Cowboys, and then 0 in that first half against the Giants. This has been a very competent defense with an offense that is doing just enough. And when I say just enough, I literally mean just enough, Jason. A lot of their points have come in the first half. They've scored on 11 of their 15 first half drives this season. They've scored on 4 of their 15 second half drives this season. A lot of what's kept Arizona in these games and how you blow a 31-point lead in the second half is you get out to a lead in the first half. And against Washington, they barely were able to keep that lead or they weren't quite able to keep that early lead they built up. Sorry, my phone is blowing up right now. I don't know if you guys hear that. It's in my ear and it's very annoying.
What is that? Is that because of like Giants talk or Niners stuff?
Yes, it is. It's Giant stuff, and I forgot to turn on Do Not Disturb. That's my fault. But you look at Washington. They weren't quite able to pull out the win. Obviously, the Giants game happens. If they don't have a collapse, they win that game. And then they took that hot start against Dallas and were able to hold Dallas in the second half. And that's what's been huge. JKBG, thank you. I know these are all. Anytime I see JKBG pop up and Jason makes that reaction, excited to read this. Yeah, but they're like rich white people spicy. It's like a jalapeno on a burger at the cheesesteak factory. That's a great analogy, though. That's fair. That's very fair because they don't. Long way, the short route to what I'm trying to say is Arizona has been spicy this year, but at some point the talent on the field matters. And the 49ers have that. I'm not saying Dallas doesn't. I'm not saying that at all. But I think the Niners are better than Dallas at this point. I think that's pretty obvious at that right now. Dallas has had some issues here and there. They played the Jets. They played the Giants, two easy-ish teams. We saw what the Niners did with the Giants. But now the Niners have a chance to beat a team that they've had not too many issues with the last couple years. Am I concerned though? Did the Dallas game make this a little bit of a more question mark to me? Yes, absolutely. I think Arizona is better than what they've been given credit for, at least entering the season. Do I think this game's going to be close? Yes, but do I think Arizona is going to win? No. So there's my thoughts on what Arizona has done the first 3 weeks.
I'm completely like lost right now after the JKBG comment.
Yeah, JKBG, we love it.
But the thing is this: it's more like, again, you want to be humble, and I think the Sprint Right Option podcast got it right, like a little bit with the Giants game. We didn't get it right with the Rams game. Like we tried in the beginning to be humble and say this, and you know what? I think at the end, I think our fandom took over a little bit, just where we were like, man, like same old sorry ass Rams, all that stuff. Yeah. The Giants game early on was a great indicator of like teams are going to give you their best shot. And I forget where, I think it was on State of the Franchise with Brad, and he said this that was like super, super, like it just like blew my mind. It was super impactful. When you're the hunted, you are going to get every single team's best shot. Every team. Mm-hmm. The 49ers are not sneaking up on anyone. They're not sneaking up on anyone. No one thinks that they're just like this dark horse. The Lions kind of have that role. And I think right now, I don't know if we can shout out to Don Burr. I don't know if we can still put them in that category because the Lions are looking like, as the kids say, like that. Just a little bit on offense. Yeah. They like that. But it's a good idea to look at this game, understand humility, understand, and a Sprint Right Option podcast, what is it? Staple. Division games are weird.
Yes, division games are very weird.
We watched Colt McCoy walk into the stadium and beat the dog shit out of the Niners. Mm-hmm. Do I expect that to happen? No. But nowhere will you catch me saying, I think, oh my God, the Niners are about to dog walk the Cardinals. It is certainly in the realm of possibilities because there is such a roster discrepancy and there's such a like large gap. But at the same time, I am saving myself and putting myself in a position where I can go back and say, yeah, the Niners blew them out, but this is what I said, this, and this. This is more me protecting myself, and the Sprint Right Option podcast is about CYA all the time.
Yeah. I feel like this isn't the first time the Sprint Right Option podcast has had to say, like, we may have gotten a little too, like, fanny last week. Like, we might have hyped up a little, but we were Niner fans. This is a Niner podcast. I think that's a little bit of our job. But you're absolutely right, Jason. I think that Arizona, we might have slept on them a little bit last week, especially considering the Dallas game. But let's call a spade a spade. If all things go the way it should, the Niners should win this game pretty easily.
If the Niners are the team we believe them to be, and I'm going to say this every single week when it's a team that is like not on their level. If the Niners are the team that we believe them to be, the Niners should win this game. I don't care by how much. The Niners will win this game because they are just better. But we're burying the lead, Andrew.
Yes.
We're burying the lead.
Yes.
As podcasters, as fans, we can overlook the Arizona Cardinals all we want. You know why?
Yes.
We don't play.
Nope.
And if the 49ers lose to Arizona, it's not because Andrew Pasquini and Jason Aponte overlooked the Arizona Cardinals. Because guess what? Contrary to popular belief, we don't strap it up on Sunday. We don't play football.
No.
Okay.
No.
But you know who I stand behind and I know is super, ultra, duper petty? Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the way that I'm going with this is this. There's a video out there floating around of Jonathan Gannon, the former Eagles defensive coordinator, right before the NFC Championship game, in which a couple of Eagles fans recognize him. He's in a G-Wagon, and G-Wagon's a Mercedes-Benz, truck. He rolls down his window, and he notices that those Eagles fans are there, and he says, if you've got kids in the car, for the audio listeners, earmuffs, we're going to fucking gut these guys. Andrew Pasquini, I don't know much about Kyle Shanahan other than his accent and the way that his cadence is and when he speaks.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you he saw that.
Oh, yeah.
And there is no way.
Well,
there is no way Kyle Shanahan is overlooking this team. And they were sitting there and they are not putting everything that they can to beat the shit out of the Arizona Cardinals. Shout out to Don Burr. Don Burr. The Detroit Lions are getting Jameson Williams back early. They're adding another weapon to an offense. It's so crazy that Jared Goff throws the pick.
How many weapons does Jared Goff need, man?
Listen, Don Burr, we love this for you. I fear this, and I almost want somebody to clip it because I can feel it coming. I fear this. The San Francisco 49ers and the Detroit Lions will play in the playoffs.
It's lining
in a
up.
certain round.
It's lining up.
It is lining up. So, Don Burr, just know that until that day comes,
we love you.
It's still Detroit versus everybody.
Yes.
You still gang everything. Yes. But when that week comes, that's when they don't become personal. We just change it up. But more to the idea that Kyle is definitely going to be petty with this whole Jonathan Gannon thing. Like, he knows. He knows exactly what was said. I trust Kyle for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was going to be my Hoomst revenge game, actually. So we'll do it a little early because I don't think there's any players, judging by me looking it up on Pro Football Reference. It doesn't look like there's a current active player on either roster who's played for the other side. So that's my Hoomst revenge game. It's Kyle Shanahan. Jonathan Gannon was the DC in Philadelphia last year. We know what happened in that game. We don't. And technically, if you want to get into the surgical sense, Jonathan Gannon's defense did carve up the Niners because Brock Purdy needed surgery. I don't think the Niners have forgotten that game. This is the first. I know the Niners have a December matchup with the Eagles, but this is the first chance of them to get a little bit of revenge. It might be a small bit because it's not the exact team, but it is that DC. It is that defensive coordinator. Oh my God, Peyton McDermott, shout out Quantrez Knight and El Manning, Hoomst revenge game. Absolutely correct. Wow. What a bozo. What a bozo.
Can revenge games happen when you're not even in the stadium?
Yeah. I love Quantrez Knight. I'm so sad he went to Arizona. Absolutely Andrew, correct though. I was wrong.
Andrew,
hand up.
I don't left hand up. Hey, wait a minute.
I didn't say it.
Speaking of that, yeah. The Lions have an anthem that I think is better than left hand up just because they're better than Washington. They do. I got to send to my group chat today, and I'm going to send it. But the reason that I think it's better than the Washington Commanders, left hand up, is the Lions are better than Washington. So it don't matter how good the song is, if that's the case. And the guy standing in front of the God, I can't even speak. The Lions Stadium, and he's rapping and everything as well too. But it can't.
I need to see this.
Yeah, I will send it to you. But you cannot have a revenge game if you're sitting on the couch on the practice squad. Like, it just can't.
I love that. Yeah, no, but shout out Peyton for calling those names out because technically they do meet this criteria. But yeah, no, I don't think the Niners have forgotten who the DC is in Philadelphia. I'm sure this will be their first little instance of a bit of revenge. But Jason, absolutely correct point. With that, I do want to bring up a little bit of the big news of today. Great. Deebo Samuel out of practice again today. He is questionable with that rib and knee injury, followed up with Juwan Jennings with a shin injury. He is doubtful. So the Niners might be without two of their top three receivers. I know we had a little bit of this talk last week with Brandon Ayuk. Does the conversation, because listen, I know we like Juwan Jennings. I know we like Juwan Jennings here.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of missing him for a game, doesn't necessarily move the needle much for me. Mm-hmm. So this is gonna be more of a Debo conversation than it is a Juwan Jennings conversation. But does missing Debo Samuel fall into the same category as last week where the Niners were without Ayuk, and you say, well, they have this weapon, this weapon, this weapon. If Debo doesn't play, obviously he's questionable, hasn't practiced all week. I would never doubt if he plays or not. But if he doesn't play, is there a bit of concern with where the Niners go offensively without Debo, or is it just kind of the same, like, hey, they have a million other weapons?
No, and this is the thing is, and I don't want to downplay the Juwan Jennings thing.
I don't want to either, absolutely. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just saying on the scale of Brandon Ayuk, Debo Samuel, and Juwan Jennings, there's an obvious third there. So that's the point I'm making.
When you think about it that way, of course. Sure. What I'm talking about is Juwan Jennings is important on third down and run blocking.
Yes.
So Ronnie Bell, you're going to get your shot this week, but you better bring exactly what Juwan Jennings brings, because it does feel like you are the replacement for Juwan Jennings when someone else pays him, because they inevitably will. And it seems like the 49ers are not going to do that. I mean, again, could be wrong. They've got like a ton of money to play with. But I think what Thursday's game was a big exercise in was understanding the importance of Brandon Ayuk. And when a team says, I'm going to blitz you on literally every dropback except for 5 and play press man, it's because Brandon Ayuk's not there. And Brandon Ayuk is the only receiver on his team that can create separation with his routes alone. Not Kyle Shanahan's scheme. Maybe it's a good route call, but the only receiver that can create separation with his routes and footwork is Brandon Ayuk. Now, you're talking about an Arizona game in which Debo Samuel's not there. It doesn't help. And Arizona did a great job of covering up CeeDee Lamb, which is why Michael Gallup went crazy. And it's good to have both. But if you're talking about who I'm more worried about missing, having Brandon Ayuk back this week for Brock Purdy and this offense feels better. And that's why early on in the game, you saw a little bit of like those struggles. You saw those throws that were contested or into poor areas. It's because, unfortunately, look, Debo Samuel's an incredible player. He's like a one of one.
Yeah.
But he's not the route runner that Brandon Ayuk is. Brandon Ayuk is your route runner. Brandon Ayuk is the guy that can get open against any coverage, zone, man, press, whatever. Like he can do that. And he's the guy that can bail you out. And he's the guy that you really look to create separation on his own. So for me, it's not a one-for-one swap because they're two different players that do two different things. But Brandon Ayuk being back, it makes me feel a lot better because you still have George Kittle, because you still have Christian McCaffrey, and you'll figure it out, right? Like Russ Dwelly's probably going to play in this game, and he'll probably catch a touchdown pass or something. Like,
I'm in the camp that Brandon Ayuk is much tougher to replace on this offense than Debo Samuel, and that's not a shot at Debo Samuel. It's just you have Christian McCaffrey, who has maybe not as physical of a skill set as Debo Samuel, but roughly the same skill set as Debo Samuel. Where with Brandon Ayuk, I mean, who do they have that's as good of a route runner, as good of a receiver, kind of those wide receiver skills? You know, who do they have? So you're absolutely right on that. And this is a sneaky, decent Arizona defense. I mentioned about the points. If I were to tell you that the Cardinals defense has as many turnovers forced as the 49ers, would you believe me?
The 49ers have 5 interceptions. They have 3. So no, I wouldn't have believed you. I didn't know that they forced that many fumbles.
Arizona has 3 interceptions, 2 fumbles recovered. So they have 5 turnovers. They have the same turnover percentage as the Niners defense. They're also second in the NFL in pass deflections. I know pass deflections isn't exactly like the nerdiest of football stats, but they're second in pass deflections. They have 3 interceptions on the season. It might be a sneaky tough game for Purdy. There's some tight windows to be had. He hasn't thrown an interception yet this season, knock on wood there. this could be a very like interesting matchup for the 49ers offense against a defense that doesn't have too many big names. They've created some pressures here and there early in the season. But this is, dare I say it, are the Arizona Cardinals like a good like football team? Like not a great, not a amazing, not a like they're gonna make the play, because I think there's a fine line between a bad football team and a good football team. A good football team doesn't necessarily mean you're winning games, but I think Arizona's a good football team.
Well, my thing is again, it's kind of like the 2017 Niners. Is
Yes,
you didn't go into the season with many expectations. You got a brand new coach, but through 3 games, you're involved in every game. And you're just like, oh, 1 or 2 plays, it makes me feel like a little bit better here and there. And you're instilling a culture. So I don't want to say they're a bad football team, but they're fighting every single day. And that's all you can ask for with a coach.
I guess my thing is how, and this is more of a Cardinals podcast question than it is a 49ers podcast question. But the thought I've had in my head the past week just watching them, and I haven't watched them religiously like a Cardinals fan, but is this team a Kyler Murray away from like maybe actually being competitive?
And that's what's funny is that's a great discussion, because what if Kyler Murray played? Are they 3-0?
Yeah, like that's my thing. Like I know Niner fans have their thoughts on Kyler Murray, but this is an offense that feels like, especially with the things they've done with Josh Dobbs, kind of keeping him I watched JT O'Sullivan's breakdown video of Josh Dobbs against the Cowboys and the way they used him to kind of stay away from Micah Parsons and the way they rolled him out and the options. I was just like, man, like Joshua Dobbs looks really pretty good in this offense. Like, what could Kyler Murray look here? Like, and that's the question. As I said, that's a if this was I don't know what would a big play for the Cardinals be that we can name a podcast for? Scoring a touchdown against the Vikings that one year to eliminate the Vikings podcast. Remember when they did that in like 2002? Yeah. Is this team a Kyler Murray away from being like kind of competitive the next couple of years? Like that's my question.
Well, then it goes back to, what if you get the number 1 pick? And what do? Is Kyler Murray the new? Is Kyler Murray?
They have 2 firsts, right?
Right, but is Kyler Murray the new Josh Allen? Not Josh Allen. Josh Rosen.
Josh Rosen. Yeah, they kick him out for Caleb. Yeah, that's like. See, that's an interesting question, because it's just like if you like, yeah, wow. But the 49ers podcast, we're pondering the Cardinals' future.
No, but if you look at it like this, the Cardinals fans have a lot to be excited about. Yeah, because you have endless possibilities, right? Yeah. So let's just say Caleb Williams says, "I will not play for them." Okay, yes.
Sure.
Then get a haul for the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Run it back with Kyler.
Whose pick do they own?
Somebody's. But run it back with Kyler. And if you have the number 1 pick and you end up as the worst team, I don't know, man. The Chicago Bears are trying really hard to be the worst team in football. They're trying really hard. But let's just say there's a world where you end with the number 1 pick and you can trade and you move into the 2nd pick and you get an impact player and you're just like, hey, let's run it back with Kyler. I mean, who could argue with that?
Yeah.
Who could argue with that?
Arizona has Houston's pick, so they might have 2 semi-high first-round picks.
Well, the thing is, too, Charlene, is Dobbs looks more comfortable in the offense than Kyler did. That was Cliff Kingsbury's offense.
Yeah.
That's not this offense.
Yeah. I will never forget, like, because Kingsbury's, when was Hawkins there? Hopkins' first season was 2020 with Arizona, and I remember like hearing everybody with like DeAndre Hopkins, how are the Niners going to stop him, and Cliff Kingsbury's offense. And the first chance we got to see Hopkins in that offense against the Niners, all he was doing was running 7-yard like slant routes, and it's like, what are we doing here? Like, DeAndre Hopkins is so much better than this. And yeah, so that's my thing. And I actually have the name of Arizona's offensive coordinator in front of me. I should have that. But I've seen a lot of good things about him. Drew Pensing, he's their offensive coordinator. I've heard a lot of good things in the early season with him. So yeah, man, maybe Kyler Murray takes that next step. We'll see. That's a Cardinal question. I guess I got another Cardinal question to ask, but it's a little bit of a trick question. Do you know who leads the NFL in 15-plus yard runs this season?
James Conner.
It's James Conner. It's not Christian McCaffrey. I thought it would have been Christian McCaffrey. James Conner's having a sneaky good season as well.
Not sneaky good.
Well, it's sneaky because he plays in Arizona. It's a good season, but it's a sneaky good season because nobody pays attention to the Cardinals. Jason, I think I'm at a point in this podcast episode where I've just complimented the Cardinals so much that I think you guys are seeing me mentally preparing myself of like, well, what if the Cardinals beat the Niners on Sunday, Jason? But I've made all these excuses in my heads of how good of a team they can be. So that's where I have it. James Conner's had a good season. The one matchup to really watch to kind of pivot it back to that to the Niners, Jason, is Arizona's done a good job of keeping Joshua Dobbs clean. He's been good against pressure, but something to watch, the interior offensive line, Will Hernandez, Froholt, and Wilkinson, they've allowed a combined 17 pressures and 2 sacks. The Cardinals offensive line as a whole has allowed 24 pressures and 3 sacks. Majority of that's coming from the interior of the line. We talk a lot about Nick Bosa, Jason, on this podcast, but the Niners have 3, I think, of the top 15 interior defensive linemen in terms of pressures. Is this going to be a big Javon Hargrave, Javon Kinlaw, Eric Armstead game?
Yeah, I think so. Again, the idea of the 5 down lineman thing is to just cover every single gap, and now you can't run. And I love what happened on Thursday because it kind of knocks out the narrative that the 49ers can't slow down a running quarterback. And I understand game script puts you in positions where you can't run the football as a quarterback and you have to throw the ball. But I think we can slowly start putting that to bed just a little bit. Like when you start citing games from like 2 and 3 years ago, well, they couldn't stop Carson Wentz in 2020. And I don't care. That's not the team that's here now. That's not the personnel that's here now. That's not what they're employing right now on defense. So I think that was a big step in showing that not every running quarterback is all of a sudden unstoppable, as a lot of 49er fans see it. So I do think that it's going to be a big game for the defensive line because how can it not be? They're the best. They're the most talented part of this defense, easily. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that Javon Kinlaw has been incredible. So yeah, I do think this is a big defensive line game. I don't think the secondary is going to get much work because that's not the type of game that they want to run unless they want to shock everybody and start throwing the ball all over the yard, which is not their MO at all. But if the 49ers can stop the run and start putting Joshua Dobbs in a position where he's got to throw the ball, pardon me for not being scared of like Hollywood Brown's speed and Rondale Moore's speed, that plays right into what the 49ers want to do. So, and I think that's kind of where they're at.
Yeah, and you mentioned the mobile quarterback thing. Last week, Jason Aponte, I don't know if you're aware, one of Daniel Jones' nicknames is Vanilla Vic, according to PFR. The Niners defense, who struggles so mightily against mobile quarterbacks, held them to 5 rushing yards on 2 attempts. That is the 5th fewest amount of rushing yards Daniel Jones has had in a game in his career. So listen, I know we're a little hurt from previous years with mobile quarterbacks, but in the Steve Wilkes era of the 49ers defense, mobile quarterbacks haven't looked so good. And that's one game. It's one game, but it's something. It's something to have. It's for a team that traditionally, I feel like I make this joke every week, Jason, that there's things that we've talked about in every season. We've had this podcast, quarterback issues, Kyle Shanahan, whatever, blah, blah, blah. One of them has been, how do the Niners stop mobile quarterbacks? It feels like they're at a point where that conversation, as you just said, should be going away. And we'll see that with Joshua Dobbs on Sunday.
It should be a little bit subsiding. It shouldn't be this outright panic. I think when you look at the way that Jalen Hurts is used and they're a better team, even Dak Prescott in the divisional game, like there's more examples now of this team being able to slow that down. And I understand, right? Like last year that was D'Amico, but the mobile quarterback thing, I wrote last year about it being completely overblown, and I thought that it was more like certain games that were just on the offense, 100%, right? Like the Chicago game, it wasn't because Justin Fields made 2 plays. It was because there was a fumble in the red zone, and there was a missed throw that was a touchdown, and there was penalties that kept drives going. There's always ways to like conflate that. It's just when you see that the team loses to a mobile quarterback, you're like, oh, well, a mobile quarterback got them again. I don't think it's that black and white. And the same thing, like this year, it's like we've got to see a little bit more before we start to use different examples from years past against the 49ers when the personnel wasn't there and the defensive coordinator wasn't there. So we'll see. I do think it's a somewhat valid argument. But at this point, it's like we're starting to get to a place where we're like reaching back to 2020 and we're just like, oh, Carson Wentz on one play made this play. And like, Marcus Mariota had a really good game last year. And, forget the fact that like Jimmy threw the ball into people's hands like 3 times in that game that should have been touchdowns. Like it's all those little things again. So yeah, I don't want to be the watch the tape guy. That's not my job, but I'm just saying like, yeah, man, we gotta put context to everything.
I got one more little stat I just wanted to throw out there before we get to predictions. And I actually got this from Jake Marsh at Pardon My Take. I was listening to Pardon My Take this morning. Here's a little fun one. I thought Jason might find this one interesting. Maybe he won't, but I found it interesting.
Yep.
Since 2021, this is going to be the 5th game the 49ers have faced the Cardinals. Makes sense. They play each other 2 times a year. This would make the 5th in the last 2 years. This is going to be the 4th different quarterback matchup in this rivalry in the last 5 games. 2021 week 1 was Trey Lance against Trey Lance against Kyler Murray. In 2021 was that week 5 game where Lance had to step in and play a game. The second game, 2021, Jimmy Garoppolo versus Colt McCoy. That's the famous Colt McCoy game. 2022, Jimmy Garoppolo versus Colt McCoy again. That's the Mexico City game. Last year, the second matchup was Purdy against David Blau. And then today or Sunday, it's going to be Purdy versus Joshua Dobbs. So the 4th different quarterback matchup in 5 games for these 2 franchises that play each other a lot. Thought that was just an interesting stat with more so from the Niners side than anything else, because the Niners have had almost as much quarterback movement as the Arizona Cardinals in the last few years. But one franchise is on a way different projection than the other. Just something I found interesting. Just an interesting little like quarterback stat.
And that's what you're here for, is that you've got the interesting stats and you've got things that blow my mind.
Do my best.
I love that stat, honestly. And that's why you should you should read Andrew's writing on NinersNation.com.
Try my best.
Or write in the comments about like what you think about it, because those comment sections are full of nice things and people who are level-headed and such nice people in Niners Nation comments.
I have not read a comment.
Please do not.
In a long time.
Please do not.
Very long time.
Because you're not like me. I'm petty. So I put up the best bets of week 1.
No, I'm just mentally soft.
Well, me, I like looking at it. And then I like cooking after. So week 1, like I put up the trends. Like Ayuk has done this, and Brock Purdy's done this, and I hit on 4, all of them. And someone in the comments was like, "A trends? What is this guy talking about? What a shit article!" And I literally went like under my Niners Nation thing right under, and I was like, "Don't quit your day job." I hit on every single one. I'm petty. I'm different. I'm different than you, though, Andrew. I'm petty. I'm petty, and I like to mix it up, man. Because when you say that I'm gonna get something wrong and I get it right, I'm definitely one of those "I told you so" people. Like I am certainly one of those people.
And that's what I love about Jason Aponte.
We're the yin and yang, though. We both can't be like that.
Oh no, if we were the same we just agree on 49er takes. We're different people outside of 49er. That's what I love about Jason. Opposites attract, dare I say.
Different, but same somehow.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
More or less. Yes. Yeah. Yes, exactly. I love that. Jason, you want to make those predictions? The 49ers play Sunday. Actually, no, we're gonna do it like this. Nobody cares about game predictions. I want to hear Jason's Underdog. Let's do Underdog before game predictions.
All right, cool. Let's
awesome. Do that.
I'm so glad, because I just literally, like, while we're on here, we just literally set it up. And shout out to everybody that enjoys Underdog. Make sure that you guys are joining Underdog Fantasy using promo code Aponte. Now we are putting it up to $500 with your first deposit if you use promo code Aponte. They have wagers on there, higher, lower. You can do best ball drafts, everything. But I want to go through kind of I got to move this out the way. This is not going well so far. Let me get this overlay out the way. Okay, so right now, the Underdog stuff has been put up because of the fact that people weren't available, right? We didn't know Brandon Ayuk. There's still nothing for Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel can absolutely play. But as of right now, these are the things that I'm higher on right now or lower on. I've got Brandon Ayuk over 50.5 receiving yards. That feels like easy money in this game, especially him at full strength. If Deebo doesn't play, if Deebo plays, I still feel good about this. I promise you. George Kittle over 40.5. I've got him higher. I feel way better about this if Deebo Samuel doesn't play. If he does, then I feel a little less confident in it. But as of right now, I can only go with what's on the board right now.
Yeah,
Right?
and I think just with that Kittle pick, especially with Samuel maybe out, I think you saw a little bit last week that Kittle seems to be the break glass in case of emergency. He just happens to have his best game of the season without Brandon Ayuk. So something to think about.
100%. Christian McCaffrey over 28.5. That's always a higher. That feels very low. And it feels like something that every single week he should eclipse. So I've got that higher as well. Brock Purdy over 229.5 passing yards. Give me the higher on that as well. Threw for 300 last week. I think you easily see him throw for 230 at least this week because of the way that the offense is going. And you know what? I'm doing something a little bit different. Give me a defensive player since I can't take Deebo Samuel. Fred Warner, 8+ tackles and assists. So that means he has to have at least 8 tackles plus assists on the over. I've got the higher on all those. 5 correct plays 20 times. So if you put in, let's just say you put in $20, you will win, I don't know math, $400. $400 if all of those hit. And remember, guys, to use promo code Aponte anywhere that you guys are getting Underdog Fantasy, and you can double your first deposit up to $500 until October 4th, limited time. Make sure you guys jump on that right now because that is something that Underdog is not giving out all the time.
I'm not the best at giving advice on these things, but I do have one bit of advice. I didn't win any of my bets this week. Okay. I didn't win any of my Underdog parlays. I'm bad at it. But there was one consistent bet that I had. In all 3 of my failed underdogs that were one of them that hit, the kicker over points feels like easy money on some of these because I think it takes
1.5 field goals. I think
not even field goals. It's points. Like I think Moody had 7.5 points over under. That's 2 field goals and 2 PATs.
Yeah,
that's 3 field goals, and I went 3 for 3 on my kicker overs.
All right, so let me get to Alberto's because he's right and he just pointed it out. So need your help with Underdog's picks. Purdy 1.5. Yes, I got the over on that. I think he's going to throw 2 again. Okay. BA 50.5. Give me BA. 40.5. Give me over on Kittle, and the 81.5. Give me McCaffrey. I think you meant to put Marquise Brown, but I don't know. I'd have to look.
Let me see if I can pull it up.
I think I got it right here. Let me see. Marquise Brown. Is it the receptions because it's 4? Is it the receiving yards because it's 45.5, or is it rush and receiving is 46.5? I'd probably do the higher on 45.5.
Yeah, just hold off on the Kittle one. Wait to see what Samuel's status is because I think that changes a little bit if Samuel plays versus Kittle. Now that we got the Underdog portion out of the way, something that we should do every week, Jason Aponte. I'll try and remember that from now on. Let's final score predictions.
Okay.
So the 49ers play the Arizona Cardinals, Levi Stadium, Sunday. I believe it's a 1:25 kickoff. Alberto said receptions.
Over 4? Yes.
There you go. Over 4. Niners play the Cardinals on Sunday. They've won their last, I believe, 2 matchups against the Niners or against the Cardinals. Niners swept them in 2022 after being swept by Arizona. That is a lie. They weren't swept in 2021. Who cares? Niners play the Cardinals on Sunday, Jason. That's all we need to know right now. I'll give you your prediction first.
I've got the 49ers scoring over 30 again, 31-17. It's a game that again, the 49ers may struggle with at certain points. The Cardinals are definitely going to put up a good fight, but I do still feel like the 49ers is a superior team, and I can't go back on that 31-17 49ers. Give me that.
I am going to go
covering the 14-point spread.
Ooh, covering the 14-point spread. I'm going to say not covering. Womp womp. I'm going to go 27-21, and I could see it being it's going to be one of the kind of not as obvious as the Rams game where it's a 2-score game going into the final seconds and the Rams kick a field goal for no reason. It's Arizona gets the ball with 4 minutes in the fourth quarter, down 27-14, and they score a late touchdown. Niners get the ball back, run the clock out. I'm going to go 27-21. I have officially, as I tweeted, I have officially worked myself into a shoot. And I've talked myself into the Cardinals being better than what they might be because of this one game against the Cowboys. So I'm gonna go 27-21. They've put up a lot of good fights this season. So I could see them putting up a good fight against the Niners on Sunday. But I still think the Niners come out victorious.
I love it. Niners win. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter about points. You don't get points for style points. This isn't college football. So yeah, I love it.
Yep. There it is. Jason, we're going to be a little more consistent in the next week. Niners have a pretty straightforward schedule, so no week off. I get to see your face a little more here and there, which always excites me. Look at that smile. But football, we are after Sunday. We're a quarter of the way through the season. How do you like that? Just like that. Blink of an eye.
We pine all week. We pine all year for football. Pine for it, and then it comes and it just goes as fast as it does.
Feels like it takes like 4 months to get a quarter of the way through the baseball season, and I guess that's because they play a million games. But football, like you blink and you're a quarter of the way through, and I don't like it. I don't like it.
Right.
We've already done 25% of our prediction shows,
and we haven't missed.
Haven't missed 3-0. 3-0. Coming off of a 12-5 year picking the 49ers last year, we're 3-0 on the early parts of the season. Jason, I'm excited for Sunday. I know you are too. A lot of good football, a lot of fun to be had. We will be back on Monday to talk about the 49ers ideally beating the Arizona Cardinals. But until then, everybody, stay safe. Have a good weekend. It's almost spooky season. It's almost October, Jason. It's almost time to get a little spooky. But that's going to be it for the Sprint Red Option podcast. If you haven't yet, subscribe and join or subscribe to Jason Aponte's YouTube channel. Jason Aponte, as always.
Let's go Niners. Let's go 4-0.
Bob Melvin, hire him, please.
Baseball doesn't matter. It's not a real sport.
Baseball doesn't matter, though. We don't care about baseball.
Not a real sport.
Bob Melvin, please answer the phone, though. Please.
Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners.